Hello, my friends, and welcome to the New Story podcast with me, Rebecca Conran, holistic health coach, energy healer, and astrologer here in Cornwall, England. I've just moved last month, and that's why I was MIA from the podcast for July. I took a month off. I thought I could probably do it, and I just couldn't get my shit together as I had a lot of transitions going on in my own life. And, this is a 1 year, 2026. And as much as we had such a year of endings last year and we were hoping for like a lot of new beginnings, and I'm not saying there aren't a lot of new beginnings going on, but I think this year is a little bit more personal than we thought it was going to be. And we've got a Venus and a Mars retrograde this year, and that always speaks to a more personal year. So it doesn't mean that things aren't happening. It doesn't mean that powerful relationships aren't forming and things like that. But it is a time to focus on yourself. It's a time to really focus on the internal process and the new beginnings that you're starting of a new era for yourself. So it's a very introspective time, and that is important, and you have to be able to tell yourself like what you're capable of this year. And you might have big dreams to do all kinds of things. You might have big dreams regarding your relationships or your career. And just because that might not be materializing quickly this year, be sure that you are laying a foundation. And this is all about laying the proper foundation. And you can't just whack it together. The foundation is very important to the structure you build on top. And if your foundation is weak and it was rushed through, then it's not going to help you to withstand this powerful structure that you want to build for your life. So it's a big month ahead of us, and we've got a lot of these themes coming up. I know that this has been a very intense year, and everything that's going on externally is definitely activating that, right? All of the wildfires and climate issues and horrible politicians and inhumane behaviors and ridiculous quote unquote wars that are happening are nothing more than corporations making money off of the deaths of innocent people. Um, there's a lot going on in all of that. And then there's a lot going on inside for us, each of us. And it's easy to become overwhelmed by the intensity. So your personal practice, how you ground your body, how you look after yourself, so important to this, to everything. We need everybody to be looked after. So at the very minimum that we can be doing is breathing, grounding into our bodies, and taking that extra time to look after ourselves through this intensity. We've got last month we had quite a few things station retrograde, which you didn't get to hear me talk about. Maybe you heard other people talk about. Saturn and Neptune both stationed retrograde. This is normal, most of the planets station retrograde half the year. So those transits were difficult. We had to sort of look at reality, the reality of our experience more clearly, especially with Saturn and Neptune. Those planets are all about like reality versus the illusion. So we are continuing some of our retrograde stations this month, with Chiron stationing retrograde and eventually moving back into those final degrees of Aries that we became very familiar with and very tired of. And before it does that, the energy in Taurus, it is going to be asking us about our resources. We might be feeling the pinch in terms of money and housing and the environment and Mother Earth. All these things are on our mind. And then when we, in September, retrograde back to that final degree of Aries in Chiron, we're going to be reminded of the new identity that we're building for ourselves. It's very interesting because I have Chiron in the fourth house, and and my fourth house is ruled by Taurus. So as Chiron has been in Taurus, I have really been making in my fourth house, the house of roots and home and things like that. I've been making a new home, and I've been making a new home in a caravan, in a smaller way of living, on a small holding, living more rural, living with less conveniences, living with the composting toilet and solar power and all those kinds of things. Getting to learn about um, water from a borehole and things like that. Uh, Learning about growing food in a polytunnel. And for most of the month, living without good Wi-Fi, which might be affecting the recording of this as well. It's looking very analog, but these are all things that are on our minds, actually. What do we actually need to be happy? And do we need everything that are all these conveniences actually making us happier? Or would connection with Mother Earth be what actually makes us happier? So on August 3rd, when Chiron stations retrograde, a lot of these themes are coming up. Healing is about noticing what's still asking for tenderness. It's not about fixing ourselves. It's not about we're broken, we need to fix. Healing is about, okay, where can I have more compassion towards myself? How can I adjust how I am connected with my feelings? Can I let my feelings have a sensory uh, place? Can I allow myself to process? The things that have happened to us, they stay with us. There are in our memory bank. They've made us who we are, for better or for worse. So it's not about healing, it's not about changing those things. It's about working with those things in a more loving, nurturing way. So as Chiron stations retrograde, the moon's going to conjunct it in Taurus. It's at the first degree of Taurus. So it's going to really amplify the emotional impact. So this is going to be a time when we might really feel those memories and stories around our worth, our values, our safety, being able to receive, things like that. They're resurfacing. So don't rush to fix these things. Allow yourself to listen and embody your feelings. Feel the sensation of feeling as a sensation, not as a mental idea, as a physical sensation. And then, if you can, try and name the feeling and witness it and not create a whole narrative around it, but allow yourself to be in the place where you are without repressing it. So, what feels vulnerable around this energy? It's just asking you for greater compassion. It's asking to be seen. It's asking to be noticed, to be nurtured, to be cared for. Uh, Over the next 6 months, Chiron, again, as I said, it's going to retrograde through this first degree of Taurus that we've been getting to know back into the 29th and last degree of Aries. And the right to be here, the right to take up space, the right to pursue our desires, and for humanity on a whole to do those things. These lessons that we might have thought we completed, they require a bit more space. We're working on it. On August 6th, Venus is going to enter Libra and show us about the mirror of relationship. Relationships reflect both the beauty and the challenge of our lives and balance and of who we are, really. Venus is very much at home in Libra. This is a very loving energy. This is actually a very good time for romance and things like that, for, renewed appreciation and harmony in our relationships, no matter what kind of relationships. They don't have to be romantic, it can be friendships, family relationships. And there are opportunities for new connections that are manifesting now. This is a harmonious time to interact with possible partners. But our relationships with others are really a gift in self-awareness because they allow us to see ourselves through the reflection of others. They allow us to see our own behaviors, our thoughts, our values actually in real time because we see it mirrored and reflected back at us. So this is a really good time to understand more about ourselves, but also mutual care and a willingness to really learn how to regulate your own emotions, look after yourself, not rely on other people, not blame other people for where you are or how you're feeling, to create win-win scenarios. And of course, to learn how to be receptive and open to love. Relationships are challenging in the best of days. So we have a lot of false stories that we carry around relationships. And yet we really need relationships in order to see ourselves clearly and to evolve ourselves and to be the best versions of ourselves. Oftentimes we can't do that alone in isolation. So Venus in Libra is an opportunity to sort of see who we are and if we are actually enacting the type of person that we want to be. August 9th, Mercury is going to enter Leo. I have Mercury in Leo, and it's a great position for singing and speaking and storytelling. And it's a hard position if you don't want to over dramatize everything in your head. And that is one of the shadow sides of this. Something I had to really learn when I was a lot younger was to not make mountains out of molehills, and so those are going to be some of the lessons that come up with this energy. Your voice, both external and internal, it's going to carry a bit more warmth, a bit more performance. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in there's a reason why we go to see plays and musicians and things like that. And that's not because they're necessarily saying anything that other people aren't saying, but it's because of the tone and the inflection and the feeling that comes through. And so there's a lot of feeling coming through our words with Mercury and Leo. And it's a very encouraging time for us to express ourselves honestly and boldly, to be courageous, to speak from the heart. Um, Courage. Leo season really brings out a lot of courage. We're in Leo season right now. Courage is the ability to feel fear, but move in the direction that scares us anyway, and have courage. So this is an opportunity to speak up and have confidence in our voice, even though it may be scary to do so. It might be a time where you need to let your ideas and your voice take up some space. And of course, you might feel vulnerable doing so, but the feeling of vulnerability is not a reason not to use your voice. The language that resonates most now, however, it's not going to be the loudest or the showiest, and that could be a shadow side of this. It's not going to be the drama kid. Look at me. It's going to be the most sincere, the most authentic. That is really the one that we're looking for during this time. The highest evolution of this energy is sincerity and feeling the energy behind someone's voice, feeling the truth, feeling the feeling. That's really what makes this energy important and good for us. So again, Leo has that ability to over dramatize. It's also can be in its shadow element a gossip and kind of a shit sometimes, you know? So we've got to really take a breath and we've got to say, is it kind? Is it necessary that I be saying these things to myself, about others? Um, and also, is it as bad as it seems? Am I over dramatizing things? Am I awfulizing? Do I need to sort of temper the extremes in my thinking and my speech? So those are all things to come out with. But if there's something you want to launch, and if there's a performance you're going to give or something like that, something creative that you want to share, this is a really good time to do that. August 11th, Mars enters Cancer. Our energy for action becomes more intuitive, and we are prompted to act and behave from a place of our feelings. But again, we learned during the Mercury retrograde in Cancer that oftentimes we're conflating feelings for facts, and that's a dangerous thing to do. So we don't want to act from a feeling that is a projected feeling. We want to act from our natural sensations, but sometimes we've got to really understand ourselves to know what is it I'm acting from? Am I acting from my history and a nostalgic feeling? Am I acting from my fears and my worries? Um, am I acting from an authentic push to activate my spirit? Um, Mars in Cancer, some astrologers will talk about it being in its detriment. I don't see it that way. I have a Mars in Cancer, and it certainly doesn't make me any less passionate or driven or uh, strong. I practice martial arts like any other person might. It's not a weak position. It's just manifesting the energy differently. So this is the mama bear energy. This is a very protecting and standing up for the little guy kind of energy. It can be defensive, sure. There is an element to that. Um, but it's got immense power behind it, as any mother will show you that's protecting her family, children, things like that. It's got that kind of power behind it. So it's different. It's a different energy, but it nurtures, it perseveres. And so here we need to be wary of where we, like a crab, might be very defensive because of hurt feelings from the past. We want to notice what we are instinctively defending or investing our energy into. We will be very empathic during this, the emotions and the feelings of others. It can be very confusing, uh, unraveling ourselves from other people's emotions. And your emotional landscape is really going to hold the clearest clues for you about where you need to be exerting effort, where you need to be protecting yourself, where healthy defense systems can be lifted in, boundaries, etc., and where unhealthy systems are sort of keeping you closed off, or you've got old memories that are painful that are keeping you using your pincers. Um, but on a whole, this isn't Mars in a negative space. This is Mars in a mothering space. So we want to think in terms of that. How can we really rise to the occasion of being a really good mother towards ourselves? August 12th is a very intense time. We've got two eclipses this month, one solar, one lunar. So the new moon in Leo on August 12th is a total solar eclipse. So new moons are active. This is a very active new moon. There are lots of powerful transits going on around this new moon. And then it's also an eclipse, which brings very surprising, very shocking sometimes energy. Things enter and leave our life very suddenly. We can find our job has been taken away, but then just as swiftly we might be in another job. Same with housing, relationships, things like that. Things move really quickly, but expect the unexpected because things might turn out better than what you thought it could be. And you could be moving very rapidly into a different level of alignment for yourself. So there's Mercury opposing Pluto today. Also, this is tough. There's deep penetrating conversations probably going to happen, control issues surfacing through arguments, anger might be bubbling up mentally. But Mercury has some supportive aspects to Neptune and Uranus going on too. So there's new perspectives that could be coming in, some aha moments, some unexpected inspiration. And then also today, Mars is sextiling Chiron, and that's reminding us to take courageous action where we need for our own healing. And Venus is trining Uranus, and so that's inviting in some romantic, financial, or self-value surprises. So this is a very active day. There's a lot going on. A lot going on that is going to be initiated for a while. So set intentions today. This is an amazing time to set intentions. Be very clear about what you are putting out into the universe. And make sure that they honor your authentic voice, your self-expression, treating yourself as spiritual royalty. That's what that Leo energy is all about. Not to inflame the ego, but to bring more esteem to your life. And it's not that we're royalty, I'm royalty, you're not. No, all humans can be lifted up and revered in that way. It's just in order to treat ourselves with greater esteem. So today we might be feeling around this new moon in Leo, polarization of both the best sides of us and the worst. It's like you've got two wolves within you, and which one are you going to let lead the way? Well, hopefully it's whichever is the wisest wolf. You know, they've got to lead. We've got to take such an such effort right now to step out of dramas, needless dramas manifesting, be mature emotionally, and witness the full picture without um, being drawn into minutia, getting caught up in minutia. Not everything needs to be reacted or acted upon. Sometimes we need to choose to be kind rather than right. I like to say, if I'm in a discussion with someone and I got no problem telling someone to shut the fuck up, like anything like that. Some people might think that's not spiritual of me, but sometimes that's the most important spiritual thing that you need to do. Um, but I think you have to really be if you feel your truth strongly and it's an authentic truth to you, it really doesn't need to be defended. You don't need to be defensive about something that's really a truth to you. You don't need to defend the truth. If it's the truth, then that's what it is. So really watch how you might be engaging in conflict because it's feeding a need for chaos and drama inside of you. And can you sort of like let go of that energy? If you're right, you're right. And can someone really hear what you have to say? You can intuit that, right? So if you're like, this person's not going to hear me, what's the point in fighting and arguing with them? Sometimes you just need to protect your own peace and move away from them and let them sort of argue with themselves and figure it out. August 17th, another very active day. We've got Mars squaring Neptune, Mercury trining Saturn, Venus sextiling Jupiter. Again, not every impulse needs to be followed. A sacrifice might need to be made in order to follow your desires also. You might need to let go of something. I've been there. I've been there in relationships. I've been there in comfortable situations with my home and things like that. I've had to let things go and make a sacrifice to follow an intuition and trust a deeper feeling inside myself. And so that's the energy that's being pulled up here. But additionally, all that glitters isn't gold. And that's always something that comes up when Neptune is in the picture. And we've got Mars squaring Neptune, so intention. Our action is in tension with our dreams, and sometimes we are not seeing things clearly. Sometimes we're seeing things in a fantasy way, an illusion way, and that could be for better or worse. We might be seeing things as worse than they really are. We might be seeing things as better than they really are. The key here is discernment when we need to ask ourselves, am I seeing this clearly? Maybe you are, but maybe you also need to have that reality check. And that's where Mercury's trining Saturn. It's giving us that reality check. Our mind is able to sort of work that out. And of course, Venus sextiling Jupiter, whatever tension's happening on this day, it is for our expansion of self-worth, self-value, resources. So our subconscious motivations, they might be blurred right now. You might not be realizing like what's really driving the show underneath and behind. So that's why it's wise to pause before acting and to, ask yourself, am I seeing things as I want them to be or as they actually are? And there is some maturity available to us should we take that pause, take those moments, uh, and be patient and practical in our thinking. And then Venus and Jupiter here reminding us to keep the bigger picture in mind, to be generous, to be optimistic, and to allow simple pleasures to restore us. So if you've got urgency bubbling up today, restlessness, which that Mars square Neptune might be activating on August 17th. Can you wait until the feeling passes to act? Can you pull out of your toolkit some loving self-care activities to get yourself through that restlessness without having to react or move in a place of urgency? August 23, August 23rd. I'm reading my notes here, friends, because uh yeah, I forget. I forget what I want to say. On August 23rd, the sun is going to enter Virgo. And so we're shifting seasons from the season of expression in Leo to the season of discernment and details in Virgo. And also health and wellness is a really good time to focus on your practical disciplines around your health, wellness, and service to yourself. Virgo invites us to notice the beauty found in ritual, in thoughtful improvements, and meaningful routines. Don't get caught up in the Virgo trap of striving for perfection, though. That is the downside of this energy, is there is no perfect. So while it's great to hone and, try to do better, we also need to accept that there is inherent chaos, there is inherent messiness to life, and that's not a failure. So embrace some of that messiness a little bit, and don't be so hard on yourself when things aren't all going the way that you'd love them to. Focus on what would be the most simple way to make life feel a bit more supportive to you right now in practical ways. So with food, with rest, with how you take care of your body and meditation and things like that. But also maybe cleaning your house is something that is a practical thing that you need to have more discipline with, or managing a budget and your finances. So this is about paying attention to the details of life as acts of self-care. The shadow aspects, again, that inner dialogue or outer dialogue that can be very critical, judgmental, cutting, uh, sometimes some general meanness can be activated under Virgo. Uh, we're all doing the best we can. No one's perfect. So don't forget to have some compassion. August 27th, the sun is going to conjunct Mercury. So when the sun, our identity, conjuncts Mercury, the mind, it's giving us an opportunity here to have some sort of realization. The sun is illuminating the mind today. So there are insights that you might have been looking for that seem to just come through more naturally today. This is a good day for journaling or decision making or sharing what's taking shape in you, your thoughts, your ideas, and speaking your truth. And sometimes understanding appears the moment that we're ready to express something out loud. So this is a good time to talk, to share with others. Finally, August 28th, we've got Mercury squaring Uranus and the full moon in Pisces, which is a lunar partial eclipse. Again, eclipses, and especially with the mind squaring our need to revolutionize and make changes basically in the mind. There's tension here today around making those mental adjustments to do with full moon themes of Pisces, which is boundaries and creativity and our connection to our spiritual path. Today is a day when there might be some unexpected news, shifting plans. There might be some insight that is here to really turn your thinking upside down. It's unpredictable, the pace right now. And ideas that disrupt your comfort, they may ultimately lead you somewhere more authentic. August is a very tense time, and both the new moon and the full moon are these points of reference. The new moon being when we want to initiate, and the full moon being when we want to provide closure. And both of them carry very surprising, shocking energy. And of course, we'll see that playing out in the collective consciousness. So there's lots that we could see that'll be surprising this month. And again, with all of this kind of shocking energy, it's really important to be looking after our nervous system and to have a practice for your nervous system. I don't know how many times I've said it on this podcast, but we think of spirituality and healing sometimes like it's an event, like you go to an ayahuasca ceremony or something, and you have a deep healing, and that's actually when healing takes place. And it's not. You might have some realizations that are events, but actual healing takes place in how we hold space for ourselves every day, every moment, in the very minimal, basic, simple things, sometimes so simple that you think it's not even effective. Those are really the ways that we need to be tuning into that are truly healing. So it is important to take deep breaths. It is important to ground yourself, to feel your feet on the floor, to be a body, to tune into that body however you can, to eat in a loving manner, to eat wholesome things, to get enough sleep, to slow down, to rest more. These are not, these have a cumulative effect of empowering us and providing us with confidence. And they help to make those events where we have these epic realizations sometimes to stick on a day-to-day way. So don't ever think that something is too small to be effective in terms of self-care. It's not. It's those small things that are the most important. Well, friends, I'm not quite in the rhythm of this at the moment. Probably because I've been in a different space. I'm in a very uh internal, introspective space for myself right now. And that feels really important to where I am and how I'm making changes and adjustments in my practice and in myself and in some creative work that I'm doing as a writer. So, yeah, if this feels a little bit off, it may be because I'm not fully in it at the moment. I'm not fully in my astrology self. I'm in a different part of myself. I'm very much in the part of me that is healing lots of childhood wounds by writing my memoir and all the things that come along with that. And all of the realizations that come along with that. So it's also summertime, and I'm spending a lot of time in nature, reading a lot, and really sort of trying to tune in more to the moment and not necessarily be tuned into some of this esoteric work all the time. Of course, we're always tuned into it, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of space from it too. So thank you for bearing with me today, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. And, take very good care of yourself this month. Try not to overdo it. Try to really enjoy also the loving components of Leo season, which are all about socializing and being open-hearted and sharing that heart with others. This is a really good time to be loving. So, all right, friends, I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.